You can't avoid it. No matter how fast, how strong, or how smart you are, it will get you. The same way it has gotten 108 billion others. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday, be it soon or far, you'll face it, and if you're lucky, you'll get away just once. You won't survive the second time. It is death. You don't often think of it, probably because you don't want to think of it. To not exist, to not be here. There's a burning feeling in your chest paired with a chill in your gut. True terror. The black and the cold, the one who takes us all. When people talk of mysteries, they talk of silly stories on Earth, tales among the living. This mystery is the greatest of all. This mystery is one we will all solve. What comes after life? Every culture to have ever existed has had an idea of what comes after death. Traditional Christians and Catholics believe God takes his children to heaven and then casts those that didn't love him enough straight into the fiery pits of hell to suffer for eternity. In Hinduism, the soul is left in the reincarnation cycle until it settles upon its true nature. In Buddhism, it's similar but not quite the same. You reincarnate, yes, until you reach nirvana. Native Americans believe that the dead go to the spirit world. Ancient Slavs believed death resulted in reincarnation just many centuries down the line. Surely, with every mythos on Earth, with all the stories of the times past agreeing there was something that came next, they couldn't have been wrong, right? It couldn't have been incorrect or highly disagreed upon. The way the existence of bacteria was disputed, the way the Earth was flat to some many centuries ago, the way that to some scientists the nuclear bomb would ignite the atmosphere, the way to some absolute mouth-breathing morons trickle-down economics wouldn't completely fail, and Reagan was in fact not a racist prick who should burn for all eternity for what he's done. Something after is guaranteed. We can all agree on it. Yes? No. I don't have the cash or resources to interview people, but I do have the internet. The only response certain to be in these threads is some entirely uninteresting waste of oxygen who feels the need to inject themselves into topics they're not interested in. I get that the death someone can come back from is not clinical, so now you all can shut that useless flap of flesh you call a jaw and let me give myself a panic attack in peace, you watered-down peanut butter prick. The other things commented here are broken down into a spectrum. At one end we have empty, devoid. On the other we have a classic heaven, and in between is, well, you'll never guess it, in between. And I'll be delivering other people's accounts of death to you, because I am fortunate enough to have avoided that. Technically drowned as a child, around 8 or 9 years old. I just remember the sudden rush of panic, followed by an eerie sense of calmness, followed by me telling myself, I'm gonna die. Strangely peaceful. Then everything sorta whited out, like staring into a light. Medically pronounced dead for about 15 minutes, so I was told. It was strange. Imagine the sensation of being asleep, but you know you're asleep. I was so aware of what happened, yet at the same time everything felt distant, almost like I was floating in space. Nothingness around me. It was oddly calming in a way. I kept feeling this tingly sensation near my toes, fingers, and knees. That sensation grew more intense, like a flood. My senses kicked back in full force, and I was awake. I don't remember the rest of that day, but my family tells a story of how I just stared at the medical workers after coming to. My eyes were drifting back and forth between them all. It was only for a minute or two, and then I was just tired and sleeping as they got me into the hospital and such. Like I said, the rest of that day is a blur, and it was a while ago, so my memory gets foggier as time goes on. Honestly, it was just pure bliss, not like a sleep, even more of nothing than that. Somehow your subconscious and peripheral senses activate a few seconds before you're resuscitated and open your eyes. It's so hard to explain that I am struggling to put into words. Been brought back a total of 3 times. Drowning, loss of blood, and once in hospital again. A pitch black room, darker than any I have ever been in. Lots of fear. Loneliness. I heard my friend say something, and it sounded like she was 1,000 miles away. I honestly don't know how I came back, but I did. My uncle said that he was stuck in a place. It wasn't black, but it wasn't any other color. He says he can't describe it. He said he was falling and the sensation was so real, but he wasn't in his body or any physical entity, but it seemed like he was just a camera that felt. Sounded scary. I'd much prefer nothingness. After entering the dot of light at the end of the darkness, I passed through a waterfall into a space of vibrant colors. I then existed outside of the colors, looking at what it was, a never-ending stream of energy shooting through space containing the knowledge of everything that ever was or ever will be. A highway with a turtle, like a giant one, that led me down the highway to a wheat field. That was really calming and peaceful, I remember. That's all I remember. I've met people who either flatlined or were brought back, or had a loved one go through that. One woman told me that her mother suffered a massive heart attack, was rushed to the ER, and had another heart attack there and died. She had the experience a lot of people have of going through a tunnel of light, then seeing Jesus, God, and passed on loved ones. She saw her mother, who was saying, "Go back! Go back!" while also motioning with her hands. These events are all involved with life after death, though. Reincarnation has also been seemingly observed multiple times, which I will abridge and recount here after I change the font size to 12 rather than 11, because Google Docs auto-formatting has been driving me absolutely insane recently. In Seattle, 1991, a boy named Sonam Wengdu, at the mere age of 2, recognized himself as a reincarnation of Dizhong Rinpoche, the first Lama. An impressive feat at 2, for at 2 I was still pretending I couldn't talk, or walk for the sole purpose of harassing my mother. He confirmed this fantastical claim with details like the fact that his previous incarnation had told his followers he would return in Seattle. In 1996, he went to Tibet. After the monks confirmed more information, the young man stayed, and there the young man, presumably 22 years later, still is. For privacy, details are scarce. This next incident is recent, only a few years old, and the boy in the story is only known as James. James, an ungrateful little bastard, would often complain to his mother of the life he had before: a big house with a pool, a garage full of fast cars, all the glamour and most likely cocaine and questionable intercourse that came with Hollywood elitism. James was a self-admitted prick in a past life, and just by reading his story, I am publicly announcing James as one of my ops. I will get you, James. Unfortunately, James recognized himself as an agent when he saw his former cameo in a film. Certainly enough, after confirming these details with the past life's former daughter, James knew things only that previous man could know. It is an entire phenomena that a research group called UVA has dedicated themselves to, and while exact numbers are hard to find, a red flag, 75% of the cases handed to them of children claiming to have had a past life. Supposedly, their research digs up someone who led that same past life. Contact with their loved ones shows a child knows intimate details. 20% of children supposedly even had scars or birthmarks that matched incidents in a past life. Reincarnation isn't the furthest we can go. Ghosts, apparitions of the dead, surely they contribute to what, from the presented angle, may look like evidence for life after death. Take it further, poltergeists and demons, a bit more outlandish, but the fact that it seems as if an entire realm is beyond our reach, that has to be there, the beyond, right? So why won't science research it? Why don't we dedicate ourselves to it? The human mind can understand all there is to know and lots of things there isn't to know. Surely, dedicated researchers could tell us what happens next for certain, right? Well, yes, but mostly, no. Academia, a place I loved dearly before using my above-average smarts to work a below-average day job, and at 3 a.m. Wednesday morning record somewhat funny but informative videos, is a place full of some of the dumbest, most moronic things you will ever hear. Only in places of the world most dedicated to making the irrational rational and double-checking the rational daily to make sure it is in fact still rational, does one have the threat of losing their job for focusing on a subject too, quotation marks, irrational. The most curious and book-smart people in the world have decided to let grubby 80-year-old dweebs tell them what they can't and can work on. They have decided certain math problems and theoretical concepts, and having a curiosity in the aforementioned merits not having a job. Death and what comes after is one of these taboo topics. For a community built on wanting to understand, it seems that academia as a group seems to kick down any ideas that differ from their known logic. It is their greatest weakness, and also why sometimes seemingly irrational things like quantum mechanics, why your dad still hasn't returned with the milk, and just random chance seem to make no sense. Sometimes things defy explanation, and sometimes people let it stay that way. In death, such as a case, the scientific question to ask would be about consciousness. Are you the brain, or are you merely inhabiting it, like a soul? It seems most scientific institutions would lean towards you being the brain, with the exception of one, the CIA. MKUltra was a bizarre time. The CIA was looking into some strange things, like espionage with a glass camera. A glass camera was a recording device that could be anywhere but not seen. A physical glass camera was obviously impossible because there's a small thing in the way known as the laws of physics. A soul is improbable, however, so experimentation into astral projection begun. Astral projection and remote viewing, you seeing something away from your body, and it remains the only confirmed superpower out there because, at least in the annals of the CIA reading room website for declassified docs, it's there apparently. Now, what makes this strange is that astral projection is often described as floating outside of your body and being aware of it. The phenomena of people floating outside of their bodies upwards and seeing their mortal coil as it withers away on a hospital bed is very commonly reported amongst those who had near-death experiences, those who have flirted with death, literally. Now, I understand that we have definitely slid into the tinfoil condom suddenly. The CIA, on their absolutely bizarre and cartoonishly villainous actions, proved there was a soul? Maybe. The CIA, being the CIA, could have entirely done a Senator Armstrong and
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
be among interesting people, or get to strange places, or just live enough. Eventually, you will see something unexplainable, or feel it. Magic in this world comes in moments, breaths of a scent so faint and so fast that unless you take the time to look and wait, you might miss it. Someone in your life has a story of someone else, once gone, now being there for just a moment with them. You can't prove that these things happened, but does that mean they didn't? But let me change the status quo, a needed trick in writing, and ask you this. Are you better off knowing? Will the premature answer to this question without paying its price really help you? If there is one, God forbid, what if heaven is real and stuffed with Mormons, but not the kind ones, the Karens who hide behind a fanfic Bible? What if you reincarnate again and again, destined to make the same mistakes because that is your true state? What if it is absolutely nothing? You, as a system of memories, all your property, all your connections, almost everything that makes you human, will be gone. If it is a meeting place where the soul at least is intact, you won't see these lost loved ones for a while, and once you do, they will have moved on from you. The result of this last voyage remains almost the same here. It's just what comes after that is a big fuss. But this greatest mystery can and should stay just that. What comes after death is whatever it is. No preparation, worry, or fighting will change it. Live life regardless. When it comes, and when you learn the answer, it will be the mystery you solved, all to your own. Now that was heavy, and I'm gonna ruin it by talking more. Thank you so much for watching. It really does mean the world to me. This is entry 9 of 1000 on the Unsolved Mysteries iceberg. Now, this is obviously an unsolved mystery, but I doubt you thought that this would be an iceberg video. Yes, I do these little videos daily where I write out a script, I narrate the script, and then I talk about it for 5 to 25 minutes, And then in video segments, I go ahead and I peddle this to you, the viewer, dear viewer. Now, if you're new here and you're interested in this kind of stuff, go ahead and just subscribe. It's completely free, it helps me reach my dreams, and if you want to undo it later because you hate my guts or just want to see my ego crumble, you can always do just that. Again, thank you so much for watching, whether you subscribed, unsubscribed, made it here, or clicked away 2 minutes in, or if you liked or disliked. It really does mean the world to me that I can make these videos, have an audience, and, incredibly enough, get paid. I'm so grateful for it every day. Thank you. And now I'd also like to take a moment to thank my, at the time of recording, 4 patrons. Sumi, David Height, That's Insane Henry, and AJ. It is with your guys' help I get to do cool things like keep my lights on, eat, and buy new socks. New socks are fantastic. Thanks, gang. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and stop talking, so I'll see you tomorrow. And until next time, have a great time. Memento Mori.